Welcome to the Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul Community Celebration. First, let's dive into what is Heart and Soul. Heart and Soul is all about helping small towns thrive. It's a nonprofit effort that puts local residents at the heart of planning and decision making, ensuring their voices shape the future of their communities. Created by the Orton Family Foundation, it's designed to tackle issues like disengagement and division by encouraging inclusive participation and long term thinking. Community Heart and Soul offers a proven framework that helps communities involve everyone and focus on what matters most, like using personal stories to uncover shared values. It also helps communities play the long game by building actionable, community driven plans for lasting development. More than 130 towns have already used Heart and Soul to build stronger, healthier, and more vibrant communities. Let's start narrowing this down to our picture. Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul grew out of the Greater Carlisle Heart and Soul Initiative, launched with support from PA Humanities. Guided by the Community Heart and Soul framework, the Greater Carlisle Project began with a simple goal: listen deeply, share widely, build together. Greater Carlisle Project members collaborated with residents to gather and share personal stories, which revealed the town's cultural heritage and helped identify what matters most, how people connect, and what they envision for the future. Eventually, the torch was passed to Mount Holly Springs, which built its own leadership team who immediately got to work. We have a commitment to strengthen community bonds, inspire shared purpose, and honor individual contributions. We envision a community where every voice matters, collective action leads to meaningful growth, and unity and participation make every idea achievable. So, what matters most to our community? We discovered this community wants to focus most on supporting small, locally owned businesses, both existing and new, preserving Mount Holly Springs Elementary School and its surrounding land as a vibrant community space, and promoting and celebrating the rich history of Mount Holly Springs. But how exactly did we find this out? For that, let's travel backwards. Starting with this year and moving all the way to the beginning. Most recently, in May 2025, the borough of Mount Holly Springs officially adopted a new slogan: where Mountain Creek flows, community grows. This slogan was created by Darwin Cruz, a macroeconomics student at Central Penn College, as part of a collaboration and project, all sparked by a Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul event. Also in May, Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul co-hosted an event with Mount Tabor Preservation Project and VFW Post 7343. With both in-person and virtual participants, we conducted a guided Mount Holly Springs cemetery tour featuring veterans who became community leaders after their military service. The Mount Holly Springs cemetery tour was followed by lunch at the VFW, and then following that, Mount Tabor Preservation Project guided a tour of Mount Tabor Church and the U.S. Colored Troops Cemetery. In April 2025, Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul partnered with Central Penn College in the borough to support a macroeconomics class project. Local leaders and borough officials presented to students, who adopted Mount Holly Springs as a case study in community development. Students explored economic principles through tours of our town, met with local leaders, and attended a lunch at Trine Park hosted by the borough. Presentations included remarks from business owners as well as Mayor Deb Brophy. So what sparked this exciting partnership? It began with the Action Plan Summit in March 2025. Community members helped shape three key priorities: supporting local businesses and reducing vacancies, preserving the elementary school and surrounding land, and celebrating local history. Participants worked in groups to develop realistic, shared action plans. These ideas were also informed by feedback from the September 2024 Ideas Summit, the Public Opinion Survey, conversations, and social media, ensuring the final plans truly reflected the voice of Mount Holly Springs. One of Heart and Soul's core values is putting residents at the center of community planning. That came to life through the Mount Holly Springs Public Opinion Survey, launched in November 2024, to gather feedback on 10 action ideas and invite new ones. With marketing and design support from Janelle Starkey of Starkey Collaborative, the survey reached 243 responses by December 1st. Participants ranked their top ideas, shared thoughts on implementation, and suggested community partners. The full report is available to the public. The 10 action ideas provided in the public opinion survey were listed by action categories. The first of those categories was welcoming community and economics. The action idea was Add a centrally located electronic display to promote local events and stay in the know and schedule events to promote local businesses. The next action category was history. The second action idea was to refurbish the historic bell from the original Lutheran church on Baltimore Ave that was sounded to alert volunteer firefighters. And the third action idea was to assist in promotion of the MHS Photo Archive and History Facebook page and add interpretive history markers around the borough. Environment was the next action category, with the fourth action idea of educating the public about keeping Mountain Creek healthy. Another action idea under this category was to potentially rehabilitate the Hempt Ponds and add other areas for green space use, like trails or birding. The next action category was education, with the sixth idea of keeping Mount Holly Springs Elementary School open. The next category was safety, with the seventh idea of increasing pedestrian safety by adding a pedestrian-activated crosswalk with flashing lights. The next category was economics, and the eighth idea was to schedule a volunteer fair where organizations share their mission and outline volunteer needs. The last action category listed was municipal government, in which two ideas were provided. Create and share quarterly newsletters with electronic access, and the 10th idea being adopt or enforce ordinances and use zoning to promote local businesses and address the growing list of vacant buildings. In September 2024, Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul hosted an Ideas Summit where 21 participants reviewed data points on future hopes and dreams. This event led to the identification of priority action items, which later shaped the items for the public opinion survey we just talked about. Rewinding time even further brings us to October 2023. Our Heart and Soul team developed and hosted its first Mount Holly Springs Cemetery tour as part of the Mount Holly Springs Sesquicentennial Celebration, featuring stories about past community leaders with regional, national, and international impact. In April 2023, Pam Still, a longtime community organizer, donated her time and talents and partnered with Ryan Boyles to write and produce a theatrical production, Holly Heroines Stories Seldom Told, also as part of the community sesquicentennial celebration. Our team engaged deeply with the Mount Holly Springs community, attending events, conducting surveys, and gathering input from those who live, work, learn, and play in the Mount Holly Springs area. We collected data points from outreach efforts like Holly Days, National Night Out, and Trine Park Community Days, along with online feedback and key reports. This input shaped our Small Town Values document, which was finalized in April and highlights several core themes: history, welcoming community, education, safety, environment, municipal government, and economics. In March 2023, our leadership team stepped up to help promote the 2023 Mount Holly Springs Sesquicentennial Celebration. We provided key support, resulting in the publication of 2 editions of the Mount Holly Springs Sesquicentennial book, and we also helped organize and participated in the Mount Holly Springs Sesquicentennial Proclamation Ceremony. In July 2022, Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul donated a plaque to the Mount Tabor Preservation Project in honor of restoring the Mount Tabor Church and U.S. Colored Troops Cemetery. Also this month, our Heart and Soul team donated a tree and memorial plaque honoring Miss Emmeline Triney. In June 2022, we donated a park bench honoring Mrs. Toner for her continuous efforts decorating the Charlie Brown tree many visitors and residents pass as they drive through the Holly Gap. In August 2021, Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul in the borough hosted a community building story contest to spotlight local changemakers. With youth and adult categories, the contest celebrated those making a difference in town. It led to an essay on the Mount Tabor Preservation Project and a video featuring Mrs. Romaine Toner and the beloved welcome tree. During the COVID pandemic, the Heart and Soul team shifted to virtual outreach. This led to the creation of 2 story maps in August 2021, one featuring Miss Trine, a local educator and philanthropist, and another highlighting renowned poet, Miss Swaim. In July 2020, local artist Holly Cameron donated her talents to create our Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul logo. In May of the same year, with the help of Skip Brown from Connect Synergy, our leadership team developed a strategic plan. This plan includes our mission, vision, values, principles, and identity statements. In April of 2020, Mount Tabor preservation efforts begin. Sparked by a single phone call and a rediscovered family story, this project quickly grew into a community-wide effort to preserve local African American heritage. In April of 2020 was the formation of the Mount Holly Springs History Collaborative. This collaborative was dedicated to develop a process to share Mount Holly Springs history with elementary school age children. In March of 2020, thanks to Jen Dieter's leadership, we created our Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul Facebook page, which has grown to almost 900 followers. In July 2019, our team created a new series highlighting and honoring the local legacies of the remarkable women from Mount Holly Springs. Also, in July 2019, we partnered with the Cumberland County Historical Society, Carlisle Area School District, Amelia Given Library, and local retirees to host a signature Carlisle Summer Fair event. Highlights included student presentations on Amelia S. Given, a community walking tour, musical entertainment, and an ice cream social. A community dinner featuring a panel discussion and an idea prioritization activity was held at Mountain Creek Inn. With this, a new group focused on Mount Holly Springs was formed in November 2016, and Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul was created. Back in April 2016, our team reviewed the work of the Mount Holly Springs Revitalization Committee, which led to the Navarro and Wright Corridor Report. Insights from that report, along with Heart and Soul What Matters Most data, helped shape our small town values document. We're back to where it all began, January 2016. Guided by the Heart and Soul framework, the Greater Carlisle Project worked with residents to uncover the community's heritage, values, and hopes for the future. With support from Pennsylvania Humanities, our Heart and Soul team grew from that initiative, showing how small communities lift each other up. Over the past 9 years, Mount Holly Springs Heart and Soul has grown from a shared idea into a movement. We have listened deeply to hundreds of personal stories, identified what matters most, celebrated our heritage, created space for every voice, and laid the foundation for a more hopeful future. All of this is more than a timeline. It's a testament to what happens when a community leads with heart and soul. Knowing what matters most and the future hopes and dreams of those who live, work, learn, and play in the Mount Holly Springs area has shaped every step of our journey. We hope this work inspires a new chapter, one where action rises to meet the priorities our community identified, one where ideas become initiatives and shared values become lasting change. This is not the end, it's the beginning of what comes next. Our work is just the beginning. Your voice still matters. Stay engaged by attending events, sharing your story, volunteering, or joining efforts tied to our top 3 action priorities. For almost a decade, thank you for being a part of our story.